The opinions expressed in the following are those of its participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the producers and the Six Talk Podcast Network. Also, the following contains mature material and mild language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Discretion is advised.
For Saturday night, November 13th, 2021, presented by Anime North, this is episode 53 of the Anime Roundtable Canada. Good evening from 6 Points, 10 minutes south of the Anime North compound in the Toronto West End. Mike Nicolas, James Austin, Kevin Ng, Mohamed Sharmarke, and Geoff Greig as the Roundtable now assembles. A quick reminder that we want you to have your say as well. Go old school, animeroundtable@gmail.com. We're on Twitter and Instagram at Anime Roundtable, and the archive animeroundtable.com for past episodes and show notes. And we'll bring it up again. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Discord. We may have something to talk about it in those fronts in the very near future. And on that note, can somebody explain to me how people have the money to continuously subscribe to various Twitch channels? Anybody?
They budget for it.
Oh, yeah. How much is a Twitch subscription per month?
It depends. Depends on how much you love them.
Yeah, actually, it's true.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'll look at the streamers I watch on Twitch, and I look at how much it costs to subscribe, and it's roughly $8, as far as I could tell.
That's medium level love.
Huh?
That's medium level love.
Medium low?
No, that's medium level love, bro. You got to go a little higher, maybe $15 a month to show your real love, you know?
Okay, I'm mishearing this.
Can't we just watch them and just if we really like them, we'll throw them a buck or whatever? Like, they're already probably making tons of money off other avenues for the bigger ones anyway.
Coin-operated Twitch streams?
Yeah.
Well,
first of all, can somebody explain the benefits of being a subscriber? Aside from emotes. Thank you.
It's to show them you truly love them, man. I think I've mentioned it already.
Well, yeah, show them you truly love them. They'll probably give you a little bit more attention, just a little bit, especially at the moment they know you've subscribed.
Well, also, they're like sports ball players. You never know how long the ride will last, right?
Jeff?
All you need is multiple Twitch accounts and multiple Amazon Primes, from what I can gather. If you want the hack to get semi-free Twitch subscriptions.
Well, it's cool, but I mean, I've subscribed to, like, full disclosure, I will regularly watch 3 channels. Do you want me to name them, or should we just leave that for the audience?
Let's make a poll, and then we'll have
everyone
guess.
The listeners probably can already guess one of the ones you've probably subscribed to. I think I can, since we've mentioned them in past episodes.
I'm not subscribed to. I watch. Because I don't subscribe to them because, well, you guys know I'm still unemployed at this point. As of, well, that's another story. So every so often, people will gift me subscriptions, which is really cool. So thank you always. But then I'll see people who subscribe for 6 months, 12 months, 18, 19 months. And I just wonder, do they have the money to really do this?
When you subscribe for that long, do you pay that all in one shot, or does that become monthly?
Good question.
Like the streaming
How the
one,
hell do I know?
where it's paid.
I think it's paid in full. I would say paid in full, but what do I know? Like this is the Gen Xer speaking in me.
I was thinking the same thing, and I'm a older millennial, as they say. It's like I just don't see the worth, right, of putting down the money for that. I'm sure other things we spend on other people could say the same thing, right?
You know, I always found that a little weird when people would donate 100 subs or giant sums of subs, because it seems like you're tipping the streamer, I guess, in a way, but then it's like a lot of money you're giving them all at once. Or like when they'll donate like 100 subs to everyone in the chat kind of situation where I'm like, I mean, you must have a lot of extra money. Like, I mean, damn.
Some people do. Yeah,
that's what I say.
some people
I mean, good for the streamer. I hope they get the money.
Like sometimes we treat ourselves to little things here or there. That's just how that individual wants to spend their money.
Yeah, beyond that.
But remember, there have been other issues I know with Twitch on that front with money flowing through them. Like I know in Turkey, they had issues in ones that were verified saying that there was money being laundered through certain accounts in Turkey.
Oh, for God's sakes.
And so it was a big thing that blew up, and it's still something they probably have to look at. Even probably in our neck of the woods too, because you never know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you say money laundering, I'm Spocky an eyebrow from me, and you'd know why. And yeah, I don't really. I maybe it's just not my thing, and I'm trying not to question it. I just acknowledge it as not my thing, and yeah, it just boggles me a little bit.
You want, you can look at the other big internet streaming neck of the woods, Mike. Did you hear about YouTube this week? And they went to the masses and said they were going to tinker and get rid of the dislike button on some videos to test it out and stuff like that. And it kind of blew up in their face, to say the least. And it's the way they did it. Just left you shaking your head.
All right, I didn't hear about that part, so why don't you tell me about it? Just quickly.
Does Mo want to say it, or do you want me to say it?
No, you got it.
Okay, so yeah, YouTube. So they said for some of the streamers that they were going to start trying out that they would get rid of the dislike button, and so it wouldn't be public. But the streamer that's doing the stream and all that stuff, it would still be there for them to see, like if someone disliked them and stuff like that. And they also said something about hiding it under some other layers, but it was maybe 2 clicks away, because a lot of people said they have to go into their analytics to see how their videos are doing to make sure that they can make a living if they actually are doing serious videos for YouTube and stuff like that. So they would still see, if they're looking at their analytics and all that stuff, how many people dislike them and stuff like that. And so there still be a thing, because they were talking about this is a mental health thing. It's like people are bombarding them with dislikes and stuff like that. And they said somehow this will be a solution, but it's kind of like, well, that doesn't really make sense, because people, if they're really assholes, so to speak, they will probably still hit that dislike button. The person doing the videos and stuff like that, even if they're going through their analytics, will still be able to see that, but they won't be able to go, because I know some of them do videos, right, talking about certain situations or apology videos and so on and so forth. They really can't make it public, because then it'll still be a vicious circle, right? Like there's so many layers to it. And I know that video, when YouTube put it up explaining their side of it and stuff like that, there was some quite a few dislikes on that one.
Yeah, I was about to say lots of dislikes. Okay.
But it's no easy issue, right? But
what is the bottom line now? Is the dislike button still going to stick around then?
Well, we'll see what happens. Because as we know, like they also talked about other things, saying like the algorithm, right? That's what people have been talking about forever, because it's something they need to look at continuously, because as some YouTubers have said, depending on the content they put out, right? Some people may be putting out content that doesn't fit nicely into a box, right? That'll be captured for someone maybe to see, right? And there's other things too. But they said, looking at the dislike button, it's like just taking that out isn't going to make mental stress go away from the online world and stuff like that. It's just kind of covering it up, almost sweeping it under the rug, as some would say, in a way.
On the topic of layers, mental stress and the internet, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. Geoff?
There's the Muppet-like monster YouTuber Arlo had a pretty good video about this instance or this YouTube dislike bar thing, where he mentioned that yeah, there's the mental health angle. It's probably a good thing, at least in theory, but it's easy to read this as a protection against the big companies. If they do something bad, there won't be that huge dislike bar, so the advertisers will be more happy with them. So like when Nintendo had the example he used was when Nintendo announced the very expensive N64 and Genesis emulation thing.
Expansion pack.
There was a huge dislike bar. And of course, the advertisers wouldn't like that. So, the argument there is that this is mostly to, protect these bigger companies from, backlash from their advertisers.
I guess it's
Well, that's an
always
interesting
self-serving
angle
in that
too.
sense.
Yeah.
Okay. As I said, this part of the story is kind of new to me, so I want to
That's
digest
kind of
it.
a funny thing. I'm thinking Just Play, and I'm thinking, so that kind of makes sense. So it's not exactly for all those YouTubers you see out there hawking the VPNs or the manscapers.
Who knows? Okay. All right, let's start to get to the meat and potatoes of the episode. It's been about a month since we've done a regular episode. By my count, we only did 2 recordings in the entirety of October. I think I made that reference already. So on the final day of October, Kevin and I just on impulse decided to do a Space Heater chat. And I made the line that sometimes the idea with the chats is just to start a longer conversation when everybody else comes back around the table. So, as I said, it's been a month since we all talked as a group. James, Mo, Geoff. I know you guys have heard the Space Heater chat when I finally got around to putting it up after recovering from the whatever it was, allergy, cold, cough, whatever I got after taping the Space Heater chat. And for reference, as a precautionary measure to everybody, I did go get a COVID test last week in light of having all of that. It came back negative.
Huzzah!
Thank you. So, James, Mo, Geoff, impressions of the Space Heater chat, what got your attention? Go.
Okay, I guess I'll start off.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, Shaky.
I guess I would say Halloween, and you did talk about the royal family. Halloween, I had forgotten. Yeah, we had talked about it in Gen 1 in regards to the events where they weren't too happy about the foreigners on Halloween being a little too not sobered up, but a little too much alcohol in their system on the subway system. But
Little too party hardy.
yeah, but it has, I think, improved quite a lot since then because you guys were talking about that, and it has taken a long time to get where it is now. Like, I know there was a good one on Kotaku I shared with you, Mike, that kind of talks about the genesis of where it's been and where it is now. Like, Tokyo Disneyland and Universal Studios in Osaka, they started at the turn of millennium kind of doing these like costume parades and stuff like that and grew it. And then this last decade, it's really like ramped up where it's not about trick or treating with the kids at random strangers' houses, but it's more organized. It's more commercial and stuff like that. And obviously, I think some of their retailers, you know how big Valentine's Day and White Day is in Japan, so I think they could probably definitely get behind that, as they said, with different decorations. Definitely cosplay factors in, so more parties like that. And then we've seen different sweets and confections at different parties, but in a different style than us. Like I know in the article I shared with you, Mike, they talked about colors. Like we talk about how we see a lot of orange and black and like the supernatural and all that stuff. And they were talking about purple and about sweet potatoes, making cakes out of that and
But
things like that.
But it was interesting because the context in that sense, in terms of colors, were somewhat similar because these are colors that associate in their respective regions to fall.
Mm-hmm.
Orange, browns, blacks, that's fall. Those are common fall colors here. Purple, you said sweet potatoes because sweet potatoes are common in the fall.
And they were talking about purple in terms of witches and stuff like that. And they were using that, I guess, in cakes and cookies and ice creams. They said that they were using to sell to people because some of them were doing parties. Now, they did mention there is kind of some trick or treat, but if it is done, it's very highly organized and stuff like that, probably around a party and stuff like that. But as they mentioned, like this was Brian Ashcraft, who has been in Japan since over 20 years, and then he even talked to Matt Alt and stuff like that. And it's not as much the scary and the supernatural, I think, as it is for us in North America, because they associate, as they even mentioned in the article, that with the summertime, with the Oban and stuff like that, when they're visiting their dead, deceased ancestors and visiting the graves and stuff like that. And you see that in anime too, right? Like the scary episodes, it's all about the summer. It's about that test of courage and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right. We remember Halloween has its roots in commemorating those that have left us. And it's common in the cultures that have Halloween, although over time that's been lost. That part of the Halloween celebrations never got to Japan, but they have their version of it already, and that's in August. So that never really figures in. So once again, it's sort of becomes a little bit like you take a holiday that means one thing in one part of the world, but then it's taken into Japan and it's made into something else very different. And that's essentially, and it's along the lines of what's happened during Halloween. Like, think about Christmas, think about Valentine's, and then the addition of White Day, right? Like, and then even our perceptions of the New Year, too. Christmas is seen as the single most romantic day in Japan, and it's not really. And as far as I know, it's not a holiday there.
Correct. But it's more Christmas Eve.
I can speak from experience that that Christmas is not a holiday in Japan.
I was going to say Christmas Eve is more the thing, though, right? That where it's the couples getting together, and then the other thing, KFC, as we know.
Okay, thank you. And cakes.
Looking good.
And finger.
You know what? Thinking of crazy days, and I'm not sure how it's done in North America and outside of China this year, but Singles Day. It's like, and I'm still wrapping my head around it because we know it as November 11th.
Yeah. That's like the 11th takes on a completely different meaning.
I noticed that Omomo, which is a Japanese dollar store here in Canada,
it's Daiso. It's essentially the Daiso stores here, but at least in Ontario.
I noticed that their Pocky Day celebration, I think, intentionally went to the 14th or 15th. And, I'm pretty sure that was done because, having it just on Remembrance Day would probably be fairly awkward.
So they made it a weekend.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's one thought that sort of came away. And in some ways, this repackaging of a holiday, remember, and it's almost roundabout to me, but remember when we talked about how Japan itself kind of is handling the pandemic, and I think it was Roland Keltz who kind of paralleled it with the isolationism way back. It was in an earlier episode we did this year, but about how Japan dealt with the pandemic, and it has a lot of parallels with other things that they've dealt with in the past. I know it's kind of roundabout, but it's just something
I do think that the way Japan handles different things, is interesting. Like, just based off of everything you were discussing, like the idea of something like a haunted house or like the Wonderland Halloween haunt, like that isn't, something Japan has really adopted. Um, and I think that, you can make comparisons to, Japanese and East Asian horror as a genre being quite different and being more psychological and slower. The kind of, jump scare, zombie chainsaw thing isn't really a thing there, even though that they've adapted things like trick-or-treating, usually in like community centers and, as you mentioned, as a sort of organized, smaller scale thing. The colors, of course, the stores would love to use it for advertising. Um, so I do think that it relates to their, adoption of Christmas. Like it's seen as this, American foreign inspired thing, but I don't think they're ever trying to completely replicate what goes on in the US.
They're
It's
just
just
making it. They're just making it their own way so that they can process it, I
Their
guess.
own
Yeah,
spin.
and it's not a major thing either. Like they have their own major things. It's just something, oh, this is cool. Japan likes, the images of witches and ghosts. Like the iconography is very interesting, to lots of people around the world. So, they'll play around with it. It's fun.
Yeah.
They
Well,
can dress up and have fun too again for one night. So
personally, since sometimes food is often on my mind, I just think yoshoku, like that line of Japanese cuisine that really is just a redo of Western cuisine for them, right? But yeah, I mean, it just seems Halloween has, like, from the first time we talked about it all those years ago, it's not, it's no longer foreigner go home attitude. It's just there.
And I think part of that is just, even when you would have talked about that, I guess sort of the early 2000s, the idea of foreigners being in Japan working the different language education, it's it had been established for a few decades at that point, but I think that there was a real boom like right around that time where so many people were applying and going on the JET program, and if you didn't get accepted on the JET program, you'd go through Interact or another service, and people would study Japanese and go for non-teaching jobs. So I think that there was such an influx of foreigner presence, probably mostly in places like Tokyo, but scattered across the country. And the more that kind of builds up and the more generations of, visitors into the country, the more the generation of children will, remember, or not just children, but like, the adults people interact with as well, will remember, oh, my, English teacher talked about Halloween, and it will just kind of reverberate and become something more and more, if not accepted, at least known about.
I think it's just we're 20 years removed from the culture shocks.
well, it was still happening late aughts
At
because
least
the
in that.
Shinjuku station incident, where they actually
Oh
had the
yeah,
protest and
that
that
one.
was
Well, okay,
2009.
not 20 years. Let's say 10. Okay, more closer to 10. A decade outside of the shocks, right?
Yeah, and there were incidents this year as well. Like it's still, you know things aren't completely harmonious as far as the foreign influence debate or conflicts there. But I think overall things are, and if you stand back and look at the trends, I think that there's hopefully a stabilization.
And I think most
Gaijin go
people would,
home. Gaijin.
I was going to say, most people I think would say it's a little disrespectful to kind of gather in a public space, especially a subway that's moving along while people are trying to get home and stuff like that, and kind of
Uh,
party about in costumes and probably have
okay, that's.
alcoholic
I suppose
beverages.
that's one thing. Yeah, I suppose that's one thing. But hey, a street corner or something in downtown, just a street party there. Okay, maybe that a little better. We're making progress. That's all. Okay. Anything else come out of the Space Heater chat grabbed your attention?
The issue of copyright and piracy, I think, jumped out at me. I think, I can't believe that there was essentially a fan translation panel at a large convention. That seems wild that as Kevin mentioned, that got through the review board essentially. But something that so I started thinking about possible solutions to I guess the problems that came up, and two kind of points came to me. The first one was, the validity of this panel, I think, would have been solved if you ignored like the main languages. So if you ignore English, Spanish, German, Chinese, like I think that there would be an argument for, here's these communities translating manga into Punjabi, Urdu, that's spoken language, but Afrikaans, like something like that, where it's like, here's these communities of speakers who don't have officially translated manga and maybe never will. Here's a group of people who are translating them. And I think that would have been interesting and maybe more, at least slightly more valid. It's still technically illegal, but, I think that there would be more justification there.
Well, it's a new angle too.
Yeah.
It's just a new angle, which now that you brought it up, I would find that a very interesting.
See, that was the
debate.
only way I could see that being okay, but I kind of see how something like this panel can get through in respect to, I know Youmacon, just like Anime North, is fan run, and then the other thing is probably it's a down year for them because I'm guessing this was also an in-person event, so not as many people and probably not as many guests and stuff like that. So maybe they thought it would fly under the radar, who knows, but definitely something I wouldn't have been surprised about 20 years ago. But in this day and age, I'm kind of surprised, to be honest, that can get through.
Yeah.
And I think about it.
And my...
Oh, sorry, Geoff. I cut you off.
No, go on. I was going to switch to my other point.
No, I was just thinking
continue.
that I was thinking back to 20 years ago at Anime North. And even when I started helping out in the video room, that remember, as Mike knows, a lot of the anime clubs in Toronto would help out and stuff like that. And when they were doing some of the video stuff, yes, we could get some legitimate tapes and stuff like that from the companies and things like that. But a lot of them at that time was still fan subs and things like that. And over the years and stuff like that, we were finally able to get that out of the system. And even I was able to get that out of the system from the All Night and stuff like that because I wanted legitimate like Blu-rays and DVDs to be shown to the people and stuff like that. And I don't want someone coming in and saying, what the heck are you doing? I didn't want the con to be shut down, right? By a company being legitimately angry and stuff like that because they have gotten to the point where we are getting a lot of that content in English and stuff like that. But as you said, in other languages, that's still a struggle.
Once again, let's just full disclosure to the listeners out there. James is one of the main programmers of the late night tracks at Anime North. He programs one of the all night tracks that you will see inside the big hotel. What is it called these days?
I can't.
DoubleTree?
Delta?
Is it one of the international rooms or whatever? But yes, it is at the whatever the DoubleTree is called now. It's the Delta something or other. They might change their name next year by the time we go to it. But I think it's like International One or something. But yeah, for at least the last, I want to say 12, 14, like I've been all in on making sure everything is legitimate that's going in there and stuff like that, which obviously way back when it's like it was harder to do and stuff like that.
Okay. Geoff, what did you want to say?
And the other sort of main thing that jumped out at me was when Kevin was mentioning that some people won't even use the Shonen Jump app that's free or cheap, like ridiculously cheap. And I think Mike, you brought up the fact that there are a couple systems or platforms that are trying to bring things together, but all these companies are not going to play ball like something like even Netflix, which is still lacking certain shows from certain companies, etc. And the sort of solution that came to mind, because I was thinking, like, is there a possibility to make all these companies play ball? And the only thing that came to mind, and this is unlikely to happen, but if the North American library system got their act together and there was some sort of limited rental system for digital manga where, kind of like how they do the digital holds now, where it's still somewhat limited.
Or Hoopla for that matter.
Yeah, like I think that that's the only way that you could do it, if you could have it sort of as this, public good. This is free. Like, I'm not sure, like, it would still give the companies money from the library's purchasing end, but like, I think that that's the only way, at least in the medium future, that there's even a potential for, manga from lots of different companies to come in one space. Aside from that, I think we're going to be stuck in the Wild West.
Yeah, that's a dream, as they
Interesting.
say,
Well, that's
right?
an interesting.
It's an interesting idea.
As I said, I like that. It's an interesting idea. Obviously, there's things to work out. I just can't dismiss it. I just like that idea.
It's
So
Problem
reliant
is
on
people, too.
individuals. It's reliant on individuals actually requesting the library to buy these things, because the library will usually listen to requests, physical or digital. Like, if I go in the Toronto Public Library right now, like, I could borrow Dorohedoro digitally if I so choose to.
who knows?
But it just depends, right? Like, it's just that it's interesting when I tell people, oh, like, I borrow manga from the library, or I borrow video games from the library, and I just get this blank stare that, like, oh, really? You could do that? I'm like, yeah. Like,
Yeah,
and if people don't know, right, they'll still do that.
I will, and remember, I push people to the Hoopla. Like, there's some interesting anime features. G Kids does give a good chunk of its library to Hoopla, so it's worth checking out.
It's
Like,
the matter of promotion in the end. It's a matter of promotion.
Yeah, it's that old Steam argument, right? Where it's a service problem. And
lots
stuff
of good
like
martial.
That,
hey, you'll see lots of good. Was it Go USA? The distributor of the Ip Man movies that Donnie Yen starred in. He's done a bunch of other stuff. There's a lot of good martial arts movies you can find. A lot of good Asian foreign films you will find on Hoopla.
I feel like we're forgetting the ultimate issue here is the overall laziness of everyone. I mean, I don't want to change what website I go to. I go to the site; it has all the stuff. Why would I want to sign up for a free service?
It's a service issue, as they've said, like they just want that all in one solution. Whatever's the simplest, they'll do whatever. But even if it'll affect their computer, right?
Those are some of my friends. Yeah, those are some of my friends in a nutshell. They already use a service that has almost everything, and so they don't want to go somewhere else.
If these piracy sites want to up their moral game, I think they should upload videos of manga artists showing their assistants in the studios with arm cramps, and then showing their hungry children, only getting ramen noodles, and you have to watch a 5-minute video, and then you can access the pirated video manga.
Oh boy!
But it's going back to that panel and stuff like that. Some of it. There are some interesting people out there, and we've seen it also, remember, in the video game space as well, that people have some very, I don't know how to even describe it, either firm or kind of wild ideas, and they just throw it out there, and you're like, really?
Yeah.
And their minds won't be changed, right?
Okay. I guess let's go through the other aspects of the chat. Anything else?
I think the last one you mentioned was the royal family, right?
Okay. Well, let's talk the royal family, and then I know Mo wants to talk. Mo does have something to say on streaming services right after, and we'll end off our recap, or look back on the Spacier chat. Royal family. Okay, your thoughts, and then mine, James.
Yeah, no, I saw. If we post the one, I was looking at the CBC one in regards to Princess Mako, and it was interesting too that because of the issue with her now husband and stuff like that, Kumuro, that another thing we found out, and because we never really hear about it in other royal families, and because if the female marries someone outside, they actually get a payment for leaving the royal family, and she supposedly decided to not accept that
She declined it.
because of quote unquote criticism, and it was about 1.5 million Canadian, 140 million yen. But it's interesting that they're giving that payment. It's interesting that this drama happened over not either one of them specifically, but because of her new husband's mother. And supposedly they were saying something about it was his mother received from her former fiance, whether it was either a loan or a gift. It was gift. It was very weird. Like, probably we would have to be Japanese and understand the greater, like, I guess, meanings behind it, but it seems like very odd that it would cause this much tension. And there's so
From our standpoint, yeah, as outsiders and non-Japanese and maybe Westerners who probably saw, the whole Thomas Markle thing going on with the British royal family. Like, we have our own, we probably have to juxtapose what we've observed already in Britain with what happened to Mako and Komuro-san.
and I feel like they take
Right.
it to another level almost. Like, they have to almost suffer. It feels like there's some suffering in silence, and we've heard that especially with the female side, because as you pointed out, Mike, they, unlike other royal families where they have tons of heirs to spare, even in England, they have tons to spare. Supposedly, Japan, because of it being a male-only line and very patriarchal, the line is very thin, and they're very like on, okay, you better be producing a male heir, and it's like been very stressful on a lot of these people where it shouldn't have been that way. And then even when they started talking about maybe allowing females to ascend to the throne and stuff like that, once a male was born, it's like, okay, let's forget about that, when they should have actually been thinking about making it similar to other royal families. And even the English, the Commonwealth, for us, for the royal family, they have improved even more, because remember, it used to be kind of skewed to the male as well, that, say, for example, as we have heard about, like Princess Charlotte, if, for example, she had been born first instead of Prince George, she actually wouldn't have ascended. It would have been George originally, because they preferred males. But then all of the Commonwealth countries got together and said, no, this isn't right, and made it that in the future that the line of succession is not determined by sex. It's like, okay, you came first, you get to go
by
on.
the eldest.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be determined by the eldest, and that's, well, Queen Elizabeth is in that scenario, right?
Yeah, no, it's true. It probably was a tough thing because they had to go to all the Commonwealth countries, because remember, the Queen, for Queen Elizabeth, is the head of quite a few countries, just like it is for us in Canada. But for Japan, you would think it would be easier to sort this out. But as you said, there's, I guess, a lot of conservative and hardline people there that I guess have this firm belief. And I'm not sure if it's the firm belief, as we talked about from World War II, where they believe the emperor is like a god, right? And stuff like that. Because remember, he never used to be outside and see the people. And then after World War II with the US, they put him out there and said, okay, you are the emperor of the people. And like, he was out there seeing people, and people had never seen the emperor before, remember? And it's like, oh my God, he's just like us.
Couple things in what you just said. One, first of all, I re-listened to the Space Heater chat, and I kept referring to the Empress as Masato, and I have to apologize. I know she'll never listen to this, but I apologize to anybody who knows I got this wrong. It's Masako. So just to put that out there now.
Thank you for that, man. I was like fuming when I heard that, man. Seriously.
Second, I always it was always lost on me what Masako's daughter and Naruhito's daughter's name is. It's Princess Aiko. And when she was born, and she's about to turn 20, by the way. Yeah, that talk did happen. That talk about her letting the secession run through her. That talk happened, and then just as James mentioned, it was silenced the second Hisahito was born. Right, to Fumihito. And the third thing is, I mentioned the hardliners, those hardliners that had that mentality, and from World War II that probably are still prevalent today in Japan. And trust me, do not kid yourself. That mentality is very much there. And I'm sure there's a pocket of that when it comes to the British royal family as well. The irony about that thinking is, I tend to think, and I get the feeling, I'm pretty sure of this, although so I want to hear if there's a disagreement. Who knows more about this? The irony is one of the first people who would probably disagree with that thinking, that the emperor should be absolute and it should always be that way, is probably the emperor.
And we had talked about that
Whether
before, Mike, with such as
we've had that. Yeah, whether it was Akihito, whether it was Akihito or Naruhito now. That's what I find the irony of that thinking, because,
and I can't,
as I said, because Shinzo Abe is along that thinking. He's at least along that line. And so he would have that thinking, but he probably would have butted heads and had a lot of disagreements with Akihito and Naruhito, especially Akihito. But the irony is that he needed the emperor for his own legitimacy in the role as prime minister. It's just one of those weird give and takes. Just looking at it from our standpoint here outside of Japan. Okay, sorry. Now I'm getting too far.
No, I was thinking,
James. I
was thinking about. I can't remember if it was Mako or her sister Keiko. I thought it was Mako, because after she did university and stuff like that, she went to England and did some studies there, and I believe she worked in a museum, and it was kind of like freeing and stuff like that, because not as many people, of course, knew her, and it's like maybe there was the expat community.
It was Mako.
But if that was the case, and I'm remembering correctly, it's her, then hopefully her and Kay will have a nice life together in New York, because I feel like New York City, they'll be able to kind of hopefully blend in, and you know what I mean? It's going to be expensive, but I'm sure they have other funds in that, unless they go to New Jersey, and as they said, he was studying to be a lawyer, so hopefully they have a better and happier life away from the craziness there and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of crazy, all the voices and stuff like that, talking about their marriage and saying this wasn't the right thing and who knows what, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, once again, when you say all that, it reminds me of that first minute in around the time Naruhito's ascension was completed. They did a documentary on him on NHK World. And the first minute of that documentary featured him, I think, taking selfies with strangers in Denmark, because he was there for a conference. People didn't know who he was, and then he was speaking in perfect English with one person, saying, like one tourist was talking with him, and she was joking with him. "Oh, they said there was somebody very important, a big celebrity inside staying in our hotel, and that would explain all the security," he said. And then Naruhito just joked with her, "Well, I'm sorry, I'm not that type of celebrity." And she just laughed and said, No, it's okay. It's quite okay. Actually, it's bigger than that." And then they showed off some of the selfies he took that day.
But
that's not going to happen anymore. For him, for sure.
course, but I guess that's the big thing too, is that some of these people, you wonder about them that I guess are more hardline, and I think of it as a monarchist. Yes, I'm a monarchist, and yes, I respect the institution, but you know what? You also have to respect the people in the institution too, as well, because they're people as well, and they're actually born into that role. They didn't actually have a choice, so you should actually have a respect for the person as well, and not be like going full on some of these things, because you're just destroying the thing that quote unquote you love, right? If they really care about the
Well,
monarchy.
yeah, and I think that's the sentiment of most people in Japan. It's just one of those cases where those that really dissent will made themselves way more known.
Yeah, the louder minority is speaking up, as you would say,
Yeah.
right?
hmm And as I said, but remember the phrase I said that defined the emperor, the symbol of the state, the unity of the people, and boy, this was anything but it's just a sad amount of responsibility to place on somebody who we know, no matter what, she will not ascend to the throne, because that's just the way the institution is set up.
She should make a Twitch stream. You
No,
know,
she's a commoner. It's up to her.
yeah, man. Day in the life
World's
of
her oyster. World really is her oyster in that sense now.
day in the life of a former princess. You know.
Yeah, she'll probably be smiling through most of it,
So you're saying
and
it's
it'll
going to
probably be
be
genuine
like
too.
Harry and Meghan, they're going to make a Netflix deal?
Oh yeah,
That's like the
well,
Internet
yeah,
City.
interesting. There's your point.
Oh,
Oh my goodness. Yeah, well,
I mean, they can
Okay.
do this. They can do some kind of sequel to whatever they're doing right now. Maybe have Netflix involved. You know.
well, we're going to talk Netflix in a bit, and it could be a great idea for Netflix Japan. On that note, Mo,
Yeah.
did you want to say something concerning any streaming service that I brought up towards the end?
Oh no. I mean, I was gonna say something about the region exclusivity of certain things be released on certain streaming services and whatnot, but I'm like, whatever.
Do you hold any curiosity in what's about to come to Crave?
I mean,
Because I think that HBO Asia stuff is now there.
I guess I don't know. I mean, I haven't really been on Crave that long. I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
I mean, what's your take on the rejigging of the tiers? So the $10 tier is not, it includes movies again. It now includes HBO. It didn't before, but you can only use it on a mobile device.
It's they're just nickel and diming us, you know. Like we're getting to that point in streaming services where there's just going to be too many of them, and they're all going to be costing too much. That we're all just going to go back to piracy, man.
Well, and rather quietly, Netflix, I think, raised its price $1 on me.
So did Disney. So did a lot of them, and it's kind of upsetting. I mean, it's you're
So
just you're. Yeah, no, go ahead, Geoff.
Just I saw an ad for Disney Plus today, and it was like first month $1 or $1.99, and it's like that's all you're giving is like not even a week free, not even like a month free, but like, oh, you're so lucky you get to pay us a small amount, and
well, that's right, because it used to be 1 month free. It used to be 1 month free. You're right.
not anymore, right? Remember, guys, you don't have to subscribe indefinitely if you don't want to.
Yeah, that's the other part, right?
I thought in Quebec there were rules and stuff like that where you had to give a certain trial period or something to that effect.
No, it's more like you're not allowed to do that, but yes, you're not allowed to give the trial period. You're not allowed to give the trial period, the free month, because I think they don't. They just don't like that negative option, the negative option billing, right? It was, I think, entrenched into the provincial law there. But if you subscribe with them, they'll give you 13 months instead of 12. Okay. Well, is there anything else? That's about it. I think that's most of the Space Heater chat, unless you have something else. And I guess Well, let's get to some of the actual more recent stuff of the last week. As I said, it's the first month we're back, but this week was dominated by Netflix in many different angles. And I think I want to go through those various angles, so to speak. I just don't know where we want to start. Do we want to start with their Anime Fest 2021? Do we want to talk about
I was thinking we could
the other
stop
stuff,
about
Asian stuff?
maybe them promoting Asian titles and anime, and then work on to what they announced Asia specific after that. I think that makes sense.
Okay, which one? All right, you started off, and then maybe I'll jump in.
Okay.
Like which angle do you
So I
want
know that
start?
this
It's a good place to
one was
start.
from TIFCom online, and Netflix was there talking about their different, I guess, titles and things like that. And they were talking anime, they were talking Asian content, and one of them I know was in regards to Kata Sakamoto, which was the vice president of content at Netflix Japan, and he was with another person from Netflix talking about their Asian expansion and how it's been successful, especially in light of Squid Game. If we haven't been under a rock, right? So they talked about three essential parts of their strategy: was content, choosing, and conversation. And it was interesting, like they talk about content, of course, choosing and investing in the right teams, and we've already talked about that, about what the money they've put in the committees and animation studios they've went through. The the conversation, they said, is trying to engage, I guess, with their customers through social media so they get a more word of mouth appeal. And I'm not sure how
And
that's
a
worked. I think
VTuber
it's
for that,
worked on
and a
Squid Game,
VTuber
right?
for that matter. Well, when you talk about Squid Game, that's sort of more the choosing part of it, but that's like that involves the algorithm.
And that's where the last part
Okay.
conversation happens, where they talk about the algorithm again and how obviously it's a little more advanced than, say, something like Funimation or Crunchyroll, as we know. And they talk about how, for example, Squid Game, actually they talked about Alice in Borderland, which is a manga, an OVA animation, and then live action TV show. And so they were talking about the live action TV show they had. And they said for that one, if you had watched that, you would be recommended Japanese TV shows based on manga, suspenseful TV shows. So if you had watched something with those parameters, you would get something else, and maybe it would be something Asian live action or anime or something like that. And so, as they said, Squid Game, because it exploded, Alice in Borderland was one of the ones that got a benefit, and there were some others because of Japanese TV shows or Asian TV shows. I should have said Japanese because I know Squid Game is Korean, so sorry about that. But it would have had similar like headers, right? And Alice in Borderland supposedly got a spike in viewers because of Squid Game, even though it had launched like way before, like 9 months before and stuff like that. And you can see that and how they do their binge model and stuff like that. Even though I know some people are very unhappy with the fact that they want to see their content week to week, and they're unhappy with that, with the new JoJo and with other things that Netflix has announced, of course, and they rather be on that model, even though Netflix, I guess, is on their own model that I guess works for them, right?
It's yeah, I guess it's. I don't know what to add to that, really. I mean, their line. What stuck out in some of the articles I read about it all this week is where Netflix actually sits in terms of its popularity within Japan itself, and that Amazon Prime does better right now in Japan. It's somewhere, but just so you know who they're up against. I think it's number 4 in Japan.
And
But it's one of those cases where Amazon actually is ahead of them.
To be fair, Japanese Amazon is incredible.
That's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
is that with Amazon in Japan and where it is on as an e-commerce platform, probably a lot of them are like, hey, I'm getting Prime, I'm getting my stuff from Amazon, plus they're giving me this stuff for streaming and stuff like that. So it's kind of like that all-in-one package sort of deal, you think. So you could see why they would be number one. Like, say, for example, if Yahoo, way back when, had done something similar in Japan, stuff like that, they could have been number one. Who knows? As we know.
Well, I think they're still top e-commerce platform in Japan, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So
Plus it's cheaper.
that too. So there's like a bunch of little angles we can take on this, like all their missed their focus, people criticizing where their focus is right now. I think that's where you were at with that, with all that, James. So, how much do we want to get into this now, then? Like, I looked at some of the titles. A lot of them look to be continuations of things I've already done. A little bit more of a focus on features, seemingly. And just to be clear, some of these features that were rifled off, being successful in recent times, it's just them picking up the rights, picking up distribution rights. Kenshin is the one that sticks out to me, because the only part of it that was Netflix that was really involved Netflix itself was it being distributed, but really not much in the, as far as I could tell, nothing really in the production. That was well on the way. The Netflix thing was a more recent development in terms of Kenshin. And it just sucks right now that the original 3 movies in that series aren't available on Netflix still, because that's still funny.
That's what happens when rights go back and forth. But it's interesting, the Alice in Borderland
And
that I was looking just now, and that was one of the ones they had at their little festival, because they announced a season 2 for that, stating that it would be in 2022. And it was interesting. They had a lot of mix between live action and anime, and there was another one similar to what you said where they announced something that someone else had already had. Like, they were talking about Tiger and Bunny 2 premiering episodes on Netflix and stuff like that. And remember, season 1, I believe, was with Viz, even though I know they streamed it on other platforms, of course.
mm-hmm. Okay, I just going back a little bit, another thought that came to my head, looking for like themes that would resonate and be fairly universal. I think that was part of it. Stories with a universal theme will transcend borders to inspire people anywhere. This is not only true for Japanese and Korean titles. This is why Netflix puts importance on each country's authentic storytelling, quote unquote. That was from Sakamoto. Remember, Squid Games has a lot of themes that were similar to Parasite a couple years back. And I think like the class divide seems to be a thing in a lot of that's become popular in Korean stories, at least the ones that have started to resonate outside of Korea.
And
although I'm now being told this is a very Asian thing, and I guess as time goes, it'll be a universal thing. Really is. Sorry, go ahead.
I do think that class divide and that kind of, I guess, unique premise or angle is something that made Squid Game, stand out, and is going to probably, at least the first season, going to, probably make it something that people are going to mention and talk about going forward. As far, just the comparison, I think many people are probably going to make due to the Netflix algorithm with Alice in Borderland. I think that was a fine show. It was good, but it was comparably a little bit more generic and a little bit more predictable. Like, I loved it when I was watching it, but Squid Game has that sort of more grounded kind of like, oh, this is the real world, isn't it? Versus, Alice in Borderland is a little bit more fanciful and science fiction and, for lack of better words, anime. And I think, that kind of slow approach anyways, the reason why I wanted to bring that up is that I do recommend people check out Alice in Borderland if you like Squid Game and you're looking for, that kind of, genre. Like, I don't think a lot of the normies are going to get into the Danganronpa visual novel or even go back to watch Battle Royale, but I think Alice in Borderland probably is going to be something that might be accessible to them and still interesting.
That's right, kids. An algorithm you should trust.
There was a good algorithm I saw years ago, Mike, and thinking of Battle Royale, that one of this, and I think it was the main store in Toronto. I'm not sure if it must have been an employee in there where they have the employees recommend a book, and they had like stacks on this one wall of Battle Royale there because an employee said, this is something you should read. The old algorithm, as they
And
say.
yes, you say that. I look at the copy of the softcover copy I have of it on my shelf from years ago.
And that was
I guess
was that was the reissue. So I guess that's the second version they did. That's the one
I have the original one.
I do have the original one
I have
as
the
well.
first
I ended up getting the second one when it went on a deep sale or something like that because I can't remember what was done with that one, but I think they touched it up with the translation and they did a few other things, maybe added to the end or whatever. Who knows?
No, if you read both, and you can tell me the difference.
Well, as we found out from Netflix, people have talked about that, right? About what is translation.
No. Okay, do we want to go into that or just save that for another time?
No. Well,
we've had our take.
We'll save that for another time. It's just
we're beating a lot of. We're good at beating dead horses here,
We're the professional horse beaters.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of that, you mentioned relatable themes and international appeal, and I think what is more appealing to everyone than the reboot of the late '90s, early 2000s classic Shaman King, the second volume of which was announced to begin on December 9th. So everyone get excited, which is Dr. Stone's catchphrase, another shonen manga. But anyways, yes.
Okay, let's talk. All right, titles. Do we want to go through any of these titles? Any of the titles mentioned, or should we just talk about the ones?
We can just talk about some of the ones they went through quickly. Like, I know Therme Roman, the new one, we've talked about that, and they said it's finally going to be out there in 2022, and that was an anime announced. They talked about a sequel to Ghost in the Shell, and then they talked about different new shows that they were developing straight for their platform. I think they had a partnership with Studio Wit for Vampire in the Garden anime, which is supposed to be 2022. And then they talked about another horror anime, Exception, which is in 2022, that they had done. And then they've just went to things that have done well for them. Like, I think Agretzko is supposedly going to continue, I guess, because they announced a 4th season for that premiering in December. And they talked about JoJo's, I guess. Sorry?
Rilakuman, I think, was mentioned. I think it's pronounced Rilakuman.
Rilakuma,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, Rilakuma.
Relax, Bear.
Somebody's going to kill me on the mispronunciation. Almost without fail. Somebody I know is going to kill me on the pronunciation. So
I think there was some minor.
Just know that I may leave soon.
I think there was
Sorry, go ahead.
Wasn't there some minor controversy with Gretzko about it appealing too much to Americans or something?
Was it? I don't know. Huh.
I don't know. I saw some article about that, and they used Gretzko as the the banner. So maybe it was just to attract people. I'm glad Gretzko is going to keep going.
Yeah, but I mean that's part of the Sanrio umbrella, right?
Yeah, the Sanrio angle.
And
I guess,
and that's I mean, there's a worldwide appeal to most things Sanrio. So I really wouldn't know why we would have a beef there. Because this might have been by design anyway. Sorry, James, go ahead.
I was thinking, you have them talking about December 1st debut for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Part 6, Stone Ocean, stuff like that. And I'm thinking about JoJo's again, how it's become so popular now. And at the very turn of this century, they were trying their damnedest, Viz and everyone, to sell that, just like they were trying to sell Ito manga. And they couldn't do it worth their damned. And now we live in a world
Yep.
where both of those can be sold to people, and people are gobbling them up on major platforms even.
Well, times change. Just like
Yeah.
Halloween.
You know what the other one changed?
Mhm.
Now we can say the last one is, it's a 2023 title they were talking about, but they're going to do a live action Yu Yu Hakusho, supposedly.
Yes. Well,
Oh.
there's nothing like live action anime. Can't beat it.
Exactly.
Well, I
man.
heard
So
there was another big one they talked about, right?
the old
Okay.
Pirate King.
Yeah, was that? I think that was the part of the same thing, wasn't it? Or was that a separate one they just
Part of the same
announced online?
presentation?
I couldn't remember. But it is on Netflix.
Okay, what do you? Okay, and recap for me. What's what's Saint? Did they put a date on Saint Seiya? I forgot now.
I believe not. Right?
They
We still don't
didn't
know. I
have,
mean,
they
it's
live
done,
didn't
action
right?
have a
studio.
date, from what I understand, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go through the Netflix anime live actions. One Piece, just quickly. Impressions.
Just quickly, I don't even like One Piece, and it's at least that all that much.
Well,
and
I'm not
it's the
into,
most prominent, popular manga in Japan in the last 20 years or whatever. Let's just quickly go over this Netflix One Piece thing.
Okay, so because I preface it with, okay, I never got into One Piece either, and yeah, it's the big talk. So but I don't know what to make of the cast announcement. The only name and because I'm not familiar with the characters, but I am familiar with one name on this, only because, well, he has an association with a Kenshin movie, Makenyu, who will play Rorona. Zoro.
Zoro is gonna be fun to watch if that's the case.
And we mentioned, I know he was in Kenshin the Final. He played Inishi in that. I'd imagine that was pretty good. I've yet to see it, just for reference. And I don't know how many know this, but his father was rather famous too. Okay, you know who I've mentioned to you who his father is. Because his father made news a couple months ago when he passed away of COVID. Makenyu's the son of Sonny Chiba. So there's pedigree, at least in quite a bit of this cast. I don't know what to make of the rest of the casting. And yeah, people are already judging them just on the headshots that were put on the in the promotions.
On the posters and that.
But they're not in costume. But they're already being judged on their appearance.
So
he doesn't look like
that's fandom for you.
Yeah, it's fandom for you. Yeah, Godoy looks nothing like Luffy. Well, they haven't had a chance to really make him look like Luffy yet either.
Also, Oda's art isn't really suitable for direct translation to humans from the real world, to be fair. But again, and that's just
that's what I was going to say. Some people are going to say you can't make a live action of said series because it just was never meant to be, right?
Well, but it is a more free, cartoony, for lack of a better word, art style, right? So it's going to be a little bit jarring, compared to, a more realistically drawn series. Like, I don't think if Yu Yu Hakusho gets its show or movie out the door, I think that the characters will probably be a little bit more closer, at least comparison to One Piece. Regarding the One Piece cast, the thing that jumped out of me that I saw a little bit of discussion on Twitter is the fact that I think it was months ago. It was years ago actually. They had an interview with Oda, and someone asked him like, "Oh, what nationalities do you think the One Piece cast would be if they were real people?" And as far as the first five, he said for Luffy, Brazil. For Zoro, Japan. For Nami, Sweden. For Usopp, he said Africa. And for Sanji, he said France. So I saw some mild / the people who were upset were very upset controversy that for Luffy, the actor is Mexican descent, and I think he might actually be a Mexican actor. Zoro, I guess they nailed it with Japan. For Nami and
Japanese American, at least.
yeah, for Nami and Usopp, they're both American, so Sweden and Africa didn't really apply. And I think Sanji is British and Arabic. I think I read from the Canary Islands. But all that being said, I think that it is still kind of neat that they got an international cast for this. Like, I think that's, they did that a little bit. Well, for ethnicities, they did that for Cowboy Bebop. But, for One Piece, I think it's impressive that at least to some degree, they're at least trying to, have that at least, ethnic diversity. Like, it didn't match his off the cuff remark. And I think, I don't,
Well, it wasn't.
I know that
far off.
yeah, like I know
Or
that
badly off.
I know that Brazil isn't Mexico. Like I don't want to discount that. There's a lot of problems with people thinking all people from Latin American are Mexican and things like that. Like that is a serious problem. But I think it is still great that they seem to look at what he said, and I'm sure Oda seems thrilled with this. He drew them all pictures on a T-shirt. All the cast seems really excited. I checked out Nami's actor's Twitter, and she just changed her profile picture and banner to all Nami stuff. So I think that these people are excited. Like this is, for a lot of them, a huge, break. Like even if it's bad, which I don't think it will be it will not be Dragon Ball Evolution bad. I think that the Japanese licensing industry has learned their lesson there.
It's funny
I'm not
because
saying
that's what people said about a creator being involved, right?
Yeah, like I'm not saying it will be good, but I think even Death Note was better than Dragon Ball Evolution.
They're gonna run it through the Netflix machine, so it won't be terrible, but it won't be amazing.
Well, Oda is involved, as we know, so I'm sure he'll have some say, unlike other creators that haven't had as much luck, right?
And it must be noted that the scriptwriter is a One Piece fan as well, so there will be some care. Matt Owens is the head writer for this, and Owens is a One Piece fan.
Much like Cowboy Bebop, I'm mostly concerned about like the sets and the environments. Like I'm pretty confident in these actors. Like they all seem great for the roles. It seems like the team behind it is solid, but I don't know if there's the budget or the ambition to create One Piece's world, which I'm not a personal fan of, but I respect a whole lot the sort of creativity and color and the weirdness, like the weird mer people, the horrible snail phones, like the very strange animals and people and environments. Even more so than Cowboy Bebop, I'm very nervous about the production value more than anything.
The real question is, are we going to have cigarettes or lollipops? That's the question.
Oh, wow.
I believe
Yeah,
it'll be
okay.
a combination of some kind of futuristic cigarettes.
And when they do the promo video, just like Cowboy Bebop, are they going to do it right? Maybe incite a few riots, but have the One Piece rap.
Oh, wow. Okay, those are actually interesting questions.
Now,
I think 4Kid owns the rights to the One Piece rap.
But it's kind of funny thinking on it. We'll have to wait, obviously, a while before we see how it turns out with One Piece, because obviously they're further in production. But once we see the meat on the bone, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But I'm sure maybe we will see love, just like we saw for Cowboy Bebop, because I know people had their say on all the stuff we've seen so far, but I don't think anyone can disagree that there isn't a lot of love for Cowboy Bebop when you see all the different teasers and trailers and interviews from actors and stuff like that from that
and
the people creating it for the live action.
Yes. And the fact that in the case of Cowboy Bebop, the Japanese voices did return. Will that happen with One Piece?
Yeah, probably.
Is that a possibility with One
I
Piece?
think they would do it.
Yeah, probably.
Is that a possibility with One
I
Piece?
think they would
I
do
could
it.
see it.
I think they would do that.
It would definitely help, I think, market it to the Japanese audience.
It might help. It might help the marketing period. Because, like, tell me. And now we're transitioning to the Cowboy Bebop talk. Tell me how many people, how many non-Japanese English speakers will be more interested in watching the Japanese dub of the live-action Cowboy Bebop than its original language, quote unquote. Because that I could see a lot of cases there.
Any other series, I could see it almost being the majority, but I think Cowboy Bebop has one of the most beloved, if possibly overhyped, English dubs of all time. So I think that, at least in North America, some fans will probably stick with English just because they don't have that attraction or that connection with the Japanese cast, especially in the US, since it aired on TV.
Okay. All right, so on that note, we are less than a week away from the debut of the Cowboy Bebop live action. Is anybody really excited?
Hey, we're not going to talk about the other Netflix news, no?
Oh
Are
wait,
you
what is
talking
it?
about
Okay, we'll go
the
back to Cowboy.
robots that go pew pew, Mo?
I mean, obviously, right? The pew pew robots.
Oh, that's right. Then. Okay, what do you want to say there?
I think it looks pretty cool. I mean,
I have not seen it.
it's just that image, just one image, like a concept image, not even a real image.
And we're talking the live action
And that
Gundam.
one,
So
unfortunately, they have like the one-upmanship because they have, was it Legendary is working with them, I believe. So with Sunrise and that to get that going.
Hopefully, the effects will be okay. Fingers crossed, the effects.
Is it based on the first or Seed? I heard murmurs about Seed, but I don't know what that was all about.
Yo, that'd be great. That'd be really good if it was based on Seed, but it's not. I think they're doing the original series.
That makes the most sense.
I'm curious as to the way they're gonna portray the Earth Federation and the Zap forces, like that divide, which is crucial to Gundam and so forth. I want to see how they what language they use for that, because are we talking Democrats Republican kind of situation? Like, what's going on here?
I hope this is seen where, like, if anyone's seen Bumblebee, John Cena has a line where he's like, they're called Decepticons. Are you kidding me? They're the villains. I hope someone in the Gundam show like looks up at like the Zaku, which are these like tanks with one glowing red eye, and then looks over at like the shining white American flag Gundam thing. And it's like they're clearly the villains. What's happening here? Why would you design your mecha tanks like villains?
Okay, yeah, it's absolutely. They're wearing black.
I have to tell you, the real question is if they can make it successful and make people actually care about Gundam, then hey, maybe we can get a Garzi Wing live action as well. Why not? Off the books.
Kevin, what do you have a thought? Sounds like you want to say something.
Well, from what I read quickly from people commenting on the ANN article and elsewhere, it seems like they may adapt UC Gundam. Like it may be an adaptation of sorts of the original Gundam, because people were saying that it, like, the background, that still shot that they're using could be reminiscent of a scene from 0079. So I'd be down for that.
Kicking it old school, I guess. Do we have a release date for that?
Yes, I believe it's the 4th of November.
Cool.
Yeah, they said it was, as we said, when they say concept, they are very early in, as they say, right?
Right.
That's like the other one I
first
saw.
in development. It'll air first in development hell and other regions to follow.
Well, I was thinking.
Well, okay, so what do you think? Okay, so what's more likely? This or Netflix picking up the rights to a live-action Akira?
Oh, dude.
Thank you very much.
That's good. That's good.
Okay.
But I was thinking about another one there, Mike, since we were talking live action, and it wasn't related to Netflix, but it was Gantz. Because remember, we were talking about creators and stuff like that, and Gantz's creator, Hiroya Oku, like, tweeted out because it had just came out and said, oh, by the way, Gantz, the live action is moving ahead and stuff like that, and they still don't have a firm date. And that was from, I guess, the person that's going to direct it, Julius Avery, that I guess supposedly did Overlord and Son of a Gun and stuff like that. But that's probably in the same timeline as the previous Gundam movie we talked about, where they don't know when it's going to happen. But I thought it was funny about Oku, the creator, saying he had no idea this was still going on. Like, he had given his rights away, and he's like, wait, this is happening? Because people were asking him about it. So it makes you wonder about some of these, I guess, live action deals and things like that, right?
Sometimes, yeah. Hey, there's your next Dragon Ball, probably. Okay, all right. Before we end the topic and then start the home stretch tonight, back to Cowboy Bebop. Do we want to say anything else about it before the premiere, or just we'll talk about it next episode after we've seen a few, almost surely seen an episode or two of it? I mean, I'm getting more and more curious as we approach next Friday, especially since about the only anime I've been watching is the odd episode of the anime Cowboy Bebop, just to get myself curious again. But is there anything else we want to add, or we'll just talk about it on Friday next week?
I think most people are getting ready just to see what it looks like, right? Then they'll hopefully
and probably say some creative flames for it. Oh. Do we use the word flame still?
It'll be interesting to see those people, how many episodes did they watch every single episode? Because remember, it's the binge mall, so they're throwing it all out there.
Will it come out all at once? Is that the plan, or will it be an episode?
It's Netflix. They'll dump it all at once. I
don't know about like the entire show. Like I assume they're hoping for a season 2.
Oh yeah, I think so too. And I just realized, yeah, Ed doesn't make his appearance in the anime, or her appearance in the anime, until episode 9, I think it is. Or is it? Yeah, I think it's 9.
I think it's very likely that Ed will be like a last episode teaser to get people to hopefully hope for / pitch for a season 2 to be made.
Who knows? And remember what I said about Ed's voice actress in the Japanese version, right? She may not be available.
Wait, that was the singer one, right? Because the other one died, right?
Yeah. Well, no. Because Jet, the one who played Jet, passed away 3 years ago, I believe. Yeah. But the singer, the woman who played Ed, has been long out of the business.
If there's a second season, they'll definitely get her. You know, I don't think retirement's a thing for Netflix.
You mean someone just shows up at your house and they just give you a wad of cash or something, or a suitcase full of cash?
That'd be more.
Well, I mean, maybe a degree of obligation too. Like, what made Yamadera and Hayashibara come back?
Oh, I'm pretty sure they just woke up in like a Netflix studio one morning, you know, after going to sleep the night before, and just were forced to do it.
I thought Yamadera needs to make all those alimony payments.
Knockout! Oh, for God's sakes. Oh, wow.
They had an elaborate, alternate or fake room thing, like with Captain America in his movie, where they made everything look like it's the 90s and say, well, come on, it's time for your recording of Cowboy Bebop. And, they maybe drugged them just enough that they believed that it was, 1996 or whatever, and they had to record their lines for the anime.
Those are my favorite tropes in movies. That they did it in Mission Impossible. They did it in like shit. Hold on. Yeah, no, they did that trope in Mission Impossible where it was like a room within a room, and it's like you're being tricked into thinking
Yeah. Okay. I guess we'll just we'll talk again next episode on that one. Okay, we're reaching, I guess, the home stretch. Do we want to say anything about Paul Gosar, the U.S. senator who tried to make himself look cool by using an Attack on Titan video, going out after his
I
opponents?
think overall, me and you, Mike, were probably thinking the same thing because we had talked about, of course, Matt Alt's book, True Invention, so many times, right? And it kind of put into focal point that last chapter yet again, right?
Yeah, it's while First Blush says this is outrageous, which yeah, I didn't care for it either. It will hit an audience. Like, there is a receptive audience, and it's not just generally speaking that alt-right. Remember, we've had this conversation before about fandom in the alt-right. Guess who was applauding there?
And I guess some of it is these young staffers, right? And this meme culture and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
this yeah. It's just, when you think about it, this isn't, like, to me, it isn't as left field as a lot of people found it. A lot of others would have
But I
found
guess
it.
we probably should explain what exactly we're talking about because I know it did hit some mainstream media, of course. It was on CBC and other stations
And
and
of
stuff
course, we'll
like
put the CBC article along with the Princess Mako article
Mhm.
from CBC. Sorry.
But well, hey, what can I say? But this one, I know it's kind of weird, but yeah, they used, I guess, the opening of Attack on Titan, and they superimposed, I guess, faces of President Biden and others as the Titans, and then I guess these are alt-right or whatever they are, I guess, attacking them or something like that, or them going to do whatever they're doing, and it's
Well, they
farcical,
depict
to be
themselves as the
honest.
heroes
That's
here,
all
right?
I can say.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it was in
Yeah.
bad taste, and I know it was weird. Like, you look at the mainstream articles, and I think everyone, like AOC and all of them had in Congress, and that they and Nancy Pelosi and all of them had a right to be outraged, and all these other things they're talking about free speech, and you're just shaking your head like, well, you can yell that all you want, you can say something is free speech and it may be free speech, but here's the thing: at some point, even if it is free speech, you should have consequences for your actions. You can't just yell fire in a crowded room and say that that's okay. You know what I mean? Like, there has to be real consequences for this person. And it sounds like in some of the articles I heard is one sister, and he's, I guess, representing a part of Arizona and stuff like that. So that kind of put some puzzle pieces together. But his sister said, this guy needs some help, and he's not had any consequences.
That's
He's
right.
not had any
That's
consequences,
right.
and if he
Gosser's
doesn't get
sister came in.
consequences, it's like he just feels like he's getting away scot free and can keep on doing what he's doing, right? And that's kind of nuts.
Gosser, for his part, has said, "Relax, it's just a joke." Tell that to Kathy Griffin.
It has a very how do you do fellow 2014 kids vibe to it. I do want to sort of give a perspective as, I love anime theme songs. I've mentioned that before. Like, the anime
Yes.
opening, I think, is a spectacular art form. And Attack on Titan's first opening
Isn't just an art form. Sorry, it isn't just an art form. It's a It's a marketing
And
ploy
that
too.
one was a
Yeah.
big
You
one
have to
too
sell.
for marketing on that one.
You sell. Yeah, you
Yeah.
sell your series in those 90 seconds. Sorry, go ahead, Geoff.
Yeah, so that first opening was iconic. Like, even when I was in Japan in 2013-14, it was playing on the radio all the time. But, aside from it being, one of the most impactful, famous openings of the last few years, last decade, I suppose, almost at this point, it is also one that has been the most parodied online. So I am definitely not defending this. I think it is, bordering heinous, if not heinous. But there are so many anti-Trump ones, and I'm not a fan of Trump in any respect. There are, World War II parodies. There are parodies where people are making this using just Japanese students in swimsuits. It even went so far that there's an amazing parody where someone made a YouTube comment that said, you can't just make a Attack on Titan parody out of anything. And the artist took that comment and screen capped it and only used that comment and remade the Attack on Titan opening with that thin comment, and it's spectacular. I have shown it in
remember that. I feel like now some of it kind of comes into context. It's like they probably are like, we just need something animated, and they went to the internet, and this is what the algorithm gave them, I guess.
Is this? Remember when I talked Hatsukoi back in May, and then I put a page up of every single cover I could find of that song?
It is that.
Are we about to do something like? Are we going to start this project? Are we going to do this?
Well, no, because
we do this.
It's that times 1,000. It's that times 1,000. Like this was incredibly prolific. And the reason for that is because
it's meme malicious, isn't it?
Yeah, because if you are trying to do an edit of this, it's like, and I use this as an example when I'm teaching film editing. You only have maybe 20 seconds of actual animation at most. Like, I think it might even be closer to 11 seconds, where it's mostly Aaron running, those rooftop scenes and the little bit of the 3D maneuver gear right before the ending there. So it's easy to kind of try to put faces in there for those few seconds. Otherwise, it's a lot of still shots that you can either keep in, very simply edit, or replace with complete other footage, and it still keeps the flow and the vibe of that particular opening. So in the parody that this man used, there's a lot of kind of fairly insensitive military footage and immigrant-related footage in there, but a lot of it, whoever made this is kind of not necessarily a talented film editor, because as I mentioned, it's an easy opening to parody and edit to. But there's a lot of compared, easily, I guess, shot for shot, you can look at the original with this, and it's like, oh yeah, that's kind of a good shot to use there. So yeah, it's a fascinating, I guess, story, but it's also like 8 years late. So,
well, and yet another layer, so to speak. Okay. All right, we're nearing the end because we're past the 90-minute mark, I think, as far as I could tell. So, there's admittedly over the last month that we haven't been around the table, there's been other headlines and other items that caught our attention. These are the major ones we want to talk about this week. I get the feeling we're going to do more than 2 episodes, more than 2 recordings through the rest of November. So let's put those other headlines, and in many ways, once again, it is beating a dead horse, admittedly. So maybe we'll in many ways, we'll end up revisiting a few themes that we have talked about through the pandemic series in a future episode. But something else that we also liked to do during the pandemic series is go through the anime community calendar, or at least the things that are coming up that might be of interest to our listeners out there. So before we go tonight, and I'm sure the other 4 will indulge me, let's take a quick romp through the anime community calendar. Back in February, we talked at length about the Japanese Film Festival Online, the JFF Plus, that was put on by the Japan Foundation. The 2022 edition of it was officially announced within the last week, and it will be an online version yet again. Its initial run is set to go from between February 14th to the 27th next year, 2022, in a number of, looks like about 28 countries, but right now Canada isn't one of them, which probably means that we'll get to see it here up in Canada at another date, probably later. The US, however, is mentioned in that initial bunch, I believe. Yes, they are. So is South Korea, so is the Philippines, and Brazil, among other countries. We'll put a link up. In anticipation of the 2022 edition of the Japanese Film Festival online, the JFF Plus has decided to look back on 2021, beginning Monday, November 15th through to November 21st for 1 week only. 5 movies that were featured in the 2021 edition of the JFF Online Plus will be available for streaming, and probably in only said 28 countries that I mentioned below. Those 5 movies are Dance With Me, Gone the Little Fox, Little Nights, Little Love, the live action version of Great Passage, and the documentary Tora-san and Goto. Sorry about that. Somebody's pinging me here. We've gone at length, ad nauseum, about all the films that were shown earlier this year in the festival. You can listen up on that. I might say more. I will say right now, all 5 of these films are a recommendation. For as much as Kevin kept asking me about films I didn't see during the festival back then. Great shooting, by the way, Kevin. These 5 movies I did see, and I can safely recommend all 5 of them for various reasons. So I'll repeat them once again. Dance With Me, Gone the Little Fox, Little Nice Little Love, The Great Passage, and Tora-san and Goto. They'll be, if you have the chance to see them beginning Monday over the next week, please, you owe it to yourself to give yourself a little time to do so. On that note, so what about our Japan Foundation? The Japan Foundation Toronto is continuing its series about parallels and translating various Japanese works into English. The focus over their last month has been on Colorful, the novel that was written by Ito Mori, which was made into a movie, which was streamed last weekend on the Japan Foundation Toronto website. But it'll culminate with another online discussion in the Parallel World series, which we've mentioned already. And they'll talk about translating Colorful with the writer of the book itself, Ito Mori, and its translator, Jocelyn Allen, who we've mentioned before. So we'll put a link up to the Japan Foundation Toronto website, worth checking out there. And finally, some recommendations from Humble Bundle. We always like to mention whenever something interesting comes up on Humble Bundle. There's 2 bundles we'd like to point out if you're willing to pay for ebooks.
I think I know which one you're going to talk about for at least.
Okay, why don't you, all right, take a guess. Do you want to say something about it? And then I'll add something. Well, which one do you want to talk?
There is the Dark Horse one featuring Kazuo Koike's works.
Yes.
Which would be, I think it's Lone Wolf and Cub, Samurai Executioner, and Path of the Assassin, I believe.
As well as Crying Freeman.
Oh, Crying Freeman too.
Yeah, Crying Freeman's in this, and so is Lady Snowblood.
Oh boy.
So yeah, and I think these are all complete series.
Yes.
So if you're willing to pay, I think minimum.
I'm trying to see what the $30.89 for all of the volumes at the moment.
Yeah, $30.89 for the whole thing. Yeah.
Because I know Lady Snowblood and Crying Freeman are out of print, for the most part, as well as I think certain volumes of Samurai Executioner are as well. So yeah, it's a pretty tempting offer
I didn't even realize.
because I'm sure. Sorry, what was
I
that,
was
James?
just thinking, Kevin, I didn't even realize because for Dark Horse compared to some of the other ones, that these ones they had actually put into ebook format and stuff like that. Because I know they had gotten to it for some of their comics and some manga, but I didn't realize they had went back and done some of their older stuff like these ones as well. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either. Like, I imagine they would have for Lone Wolf and Cub because that is one of their better selling manga that they do reissue from time to time. But the others, debatable that they would have done anything more with them.
Even Crying Freeman and a few of the others, because it's been years since they did the physical editions, and I'm not sure if any of them, as you said, are in print for some of them.
I don't believe so, no. I know, I think it was like Path of the Assassin and Samurai Executioner did get the omnibus treatment. Definitely Samurai Executioner, but I think those are starting to go out of print as well.
Okay.
So definitely some value there, that's for sure.
Yeah, I am
I'm
tempted.
I'm probably gonna give it a shot
Like for a
myself.
classic manga bundle, this is for this one creator. It definitely is tempting in that, and he's done some great work and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yo, I
So
want Wounded and Offered Man, or Wounded Man and Offered to come back out at some point because those were Comics One slash DR Master. Yeah, who knows when those will
Yeah,
ever
that was
surface again.
interesting how Comics One and that did quite a few of Koike's books and stuff like that. And then when Dark Horse did a few of the others, like Lone Wolf and Cub and stuff like that, they started to reprint some of his other stuff because some of his earlier works, like example Crying Freeman, went to him personally after a certain period of time, so they were able to license from him directly, which was interesting.
Uh, yeah, and those two titles are getting kind of pricey in the secondhand market now.
can you take a guess on the other item I want to mention from Humble Bundle?
I have no clue what the other one would have been.
It's referred to as the Live Like a Samurai bundle from Shambhala Publications. It's basically a bunch of books that tackle East Asian philosophy, martial arts philosophy, and at least two graphic novels. One based on Musashi and the other based on 47 Ronin. All interesting. They're all interesting books. At least I've read Book of Five Rings
Taking a look now, they even have the
myself.
Art of War in there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it's not Japanese. I get it. But that might be worth your while as well. And that's you can get that entire bundle for I think 22 Canadian. But worth checking out there. And no, we don't get anything out of this. We just think these are cool. It might be worth your trouble. And I'll admit being tempted by that one as well. Okay, I think we've overstayed our welcome tonight. Oh, Kevin, you want anything else to add before we go?
Okay, so to the people who watched the new My Hero Academia movie, how did you guys find it?
Mo, last before we go tonight.
It was really good. I personally liked it better than the second one. It was a lot of fun. You know, Rhodey Soul, who's the I guess the other character or original character for the movie, was super awesome. Really good. Yeah, go watch it.
I thought it was the worst of the three, but I think that all three of the My Hero Academia movies are probably better than your average Naruto, Bleach, Dragon Ball Z movie. So, I think they're still rather high quality.
It's like the worst fudge,
What you're saying is Shonen Jump is getting better at their filler content sometimes, huh? Or finding ways
I
to
would say
work the
so.
content in.
Hero Academia lends itself really well to filler content. I'm actually kind of a little bit sad there aren't like filler arcs anymore, because the couple of filler episodes they've had have been fun and focused on Froppy, so that's always a good time.
Yeah. Frog Girl is one of the best girls.
James, did you see it?
No, I didn't see it at all, so I don't know how many people are going to the movie theaters now, guys.
So
Yeah, well, numbers.
when I went, it was like maybe only a third full. I went on Tuesday, so I purposely waited for cheap day to go watch it, and it was spaced out pretty well. I did enjoy the movie. It was fairly predictable in terms of setup, but it had a fun kind of Bonnie and Clyde-esque feel to it, I guess. I, it was fun. Like I never really expect great quality when it comes to these Shonen Jump filler movies, but I was entertained, albeit yes, very predictable, and how the thing concludes is a little bullshit because way too much time elapsed. Let's be real here.
Oh, let's not be time realist here. Come on, this is a movie of pure joy and fun. Let's not keep a stopwatch on
Yeah,
that.
check the brain.
Check the brain at the door.
Exactly.
But when there was 5 minutes left, that was legit like 20 minutes long.
It's movie magic, man.
And
I saw it on.
Yeah, go ahead.
I saw it on Halloween, and that might have had a factor of it, but there was a Bakugo cosplayer in the audience who, like, at the end, did a very good Bakugo impression and told us nerds to get out of there at the end of the movie, which was a very nice touch.
Way to go.
Was that after the credits? Because most people I know stay for the credits.
Yeah, no, that was that was after the credits.
That's probably a nice touch at the end there. That's true.
Okay. How many times did you guys see the trailer for the new Sword Art Online movie? Because in the screening that I saw, they showed it 3 times before the movie.
Oh,
really?
Weird.
Wow.
The exact same trailer, just 3 times.
That is weird.
Yeah.
We got
on the topic of filler.
We got it once, and then they also showed the trailer for the new Matrix movie.
Yep, same here. Yep,
and a couple other things.
I wonder if it's sometimes for some of the events and stuff like that, we don't always get some of the stuff the US gets in that, because I know we didn't get the Lupin event that they held in October in that. The one thing to end off on these different movies that are coming to Cineplex and other places is that hopefully in December we get, like the US is getting, because I know Fathom is doing it down there, is the Macross Plus movie edition is supposedly coming in December, and that would be interesting to see, even though it's not the OVA.
Ooh. I would want to watch that.
I knew you'd figure out a way to get that one in, James. The way to go.
I'd be down to watch that in a theater.
I think a lot of people would be, and would in light of everything that happened to the Macross title in 2021.
I feel like it's been, as we said, a release of the floodgates. Like Funimation has been releasing the Robotech stuff, culminating, I guess, on the 3rd series in December. And now we're seeing actual Macross in the theaters, which I'm sure no one expected in 2021, if at all.
See, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Anyway, I know we'll have a lot more to do, but we should end it because I have to get this episode up. I have to actually put the links from episode 52 up. Yeah, it's been a rough month.
I've actually been playing my Switch lately. It's been fun.
Yes, you did, and you mentioned that to me 2 weeks ago.
I'm actually playing it though.
Oh, you opened it. That's right. Okay.
I actually opened it.
Last thing, and for reference, I will probably start load in Yakuza Kiwami 2 finally. But okay.
So I'm waiting for SMT5. Like, Atlas, what the heck? Why did you delay it for us by 4 days when other places just got it already?
Guessing you're going to get all the standard games. It's like you can get Breath of the Wild and play that and Just remember the right way to play it there, Kevin. I'll lend you my flip grip so you can play Breath of the Wild in Tate mode. And I also have an
What mode?
N64 controller, so you can use that to control Link and get the job done. And get straight to Ganon immediately. That's how it's done, Kevin.
Okay,
That's how it's done.
I need to ask you about this after we cut this off.
And we're going to do so right now, because that's all we have for tonight. Once again, a reminder where you can contact us, animeroundtable@gmail.com, at animeroundtable, animeroundtable.com. And don't forget, word of mouth is always good, so tell your friends about this show if you think they'll like it, because it'll always help us. And leave us a review wherever you're listening to this.
Yes, leave us those 5-star reviews. Give us some positive or constructive criticism. If you want us to talk about things, let us know. If you want us to shit talk more, let us know. If you want us to bash people, let us know. Just let us know that you're out there.
Or whatever a video game controller really does work. And yeah, it'll help us in the algorithm. Take a shot right there. We typically do episodes every other week, but sometimes we'll go consecutive weeks. I think we have some catching up to do, so who knows about next week. But if you don't want to miss out on anything, wherever you're watching this or listening to this, hit the subscribe button to be notified whenever we do add something new to the feed. So until next time, thanks for listening. Good night from Toronto. Join us again for another edition of the Anime Round.